Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Trackday Heroes podcast, episode 2, for the week of January 28th, 2015. Got the year right this time. My name is Tony Rinker, and I'm joined this week by Nate Pike. What's going on, Nate?
How's it going?
Good, man. Good. This week we have a bunch of good topics to talk about. Trackday Heroes is just a bunch of regular guys that do track days, sport bike enthusiasts. We like riding on the street as well. We participate in group rides, and we just want to share our experience with you guys, what it's like to do a track day, what it's all about, why we do it, and give you tips and information about things to do or to avoid, or how to improve things based on the various things that we've done right and wrong, screwing up and having our own accidents, and just kind of what we learned, because track days are so much fun. Nate, why don't you tell me again, since it's just the second podcast, about your riding experience and what bike you're riding now on the street and on the track?
Yeah, I started riding back in March of 2012, and ever since then I've been hooked. I didn't start riding on the track until 2013. 2013 I did maybe a dozen days, I think, and I think I did most of them. I did all of them on my HP4, which I just picked up that year, which has been a blast. This past year, 2014, I picked up a 2007 Suzuki Gixxer 600, and I've ridden that all year, except for one track day in 2014, and that's been a great bike as well, and that's probably what I'll be riding this season as well.
Yeah, you've had a good lot of experience in different bikes in the past few years, and for me, I've been riding for a long time, like almost 30 years, mostly on the street, just track days in the last couple of years, where I've discovered this thanks after I met you and Fred Clark on one of the BMW forums. I'm riding the BMW S1000RR 2013, and have that just for the track and the street because I'm too cheap to have multiple bikes. But I love that bike, and I've had just a lot of fun on it, and I've learned so much going to track days. It's improved my riding on the street in so many ways. I mean, I've done, you've shown me stuff. The other guys at track days have shown me stuff. The control riders at the track day organizations have really helped me learn a lot, and I'm just such a better rider than I was in all the years that I rode on the street only. So that's who Nate and I are. Nate, you're also an A group rider, correct?
Yeah, both of us got bumped up on the same day. It was a good day.
Yeah, and so an A group rider is an advanced rider for track day purposes. There's your novice group, your intermediate group, and your advanced group. I'm in the intermediate group, and I've done about 20 track days. So in any case, moving on, let's talk about something that happens at every track day, and that would be crashing at the track. Nate, what experiences have you had with crashing at the track?
I've had a couple not so fun. I think the first time first time I crashed was May in 2013, and it was one of my first few track days. I think maybe I did 3 before that, and it was a cooler day. It was at Summit Point, Maine, and it was with Roger Lyle, Motorcycle Excitement, and it was the last session of the day, and the weather had cooled down by then. I was running track-specific tires, the Dunlop 211s, and it was the first lap, turn 1. I don't know exactly what happened. I wasn't running warmers. That could have contributed. I'm really not sure. I went into turn 1, and the bike just went out from under me, the classic low side, and yeah, then bike got dinged up a little bit. Nothing really happened to me. I waited for traffic to pass, and then got back out and pitted in, and Roger came by and took a look at the bike. He said everything looked okay as far as getting back out there if I wanted to, and asked how I was doing, and I told him I felt fine and I wanted to go ahead and finish that session, and he let me go back out and wrap it up. So that was the first crash. And then the second crash that I had was in June of 2013, and once again, Summit Point, Maine. This time it was turn 3, and turn 3 I misjudged slightly, and I went over. You can't really see turn 3 when you're coming into it from turn 2. It's slightly blind, and I thought it was a little further out than it was, and so I went off and hit the gravel trap. Kept the bike up for the most part for the first few moments, but then once I got into the grassy portion, it just kicked me right off and went flying through the air, landed on my back, and bike kind of flew in behind me. So no damage to the leathers or anything really. I mean, all the gear held up great. Bike had very minimal damage as well, surprisingly. So overall, it was okay, but definitely it's something you don't really want to try and practice regularly. It gets expensive, fixing parts here and there. So that's pretty much it so far.
Exactly. Knock on wood. I was actually behind you on that first track accident you were talking about at Summit, Maine at turn 1. I remember that very well. I remember seeing you I was right behind you and coming in turn 1. And I remember seeing your front end just going out from underneath you and you sliding off the edge into the dirt on that turn. And like you said, it was like the cold tires, the cold track, and boom, you just were gone. And it happened that quick, and you weren't hurt. That was awesome. And I've seen other people go off on turn 3 at Summit Point, Maine, and yeah, that can be tricky if you're coming into that too hot. I've had definitely a few, oh crap moments on that track, and I've been lucky too not to have gone down yet at the track in the 20 some odd track days that I've done. I've been fortunate. Who knows? Maybe that's why I'm still in I group instead of A group. But when there is a crash at the track, typically there's corner workers at all the corners in these stations. And for those of you who are new to track days or don't know how the process works, the corner workers will wave a flag, and they all talk by radio to the people running that track day session. And they will put out flags to tell the other riders if there's been an accident. Like, for instance, a yellow flag would mean that there's an accident up ahead or a problem, and you're just supposed to be aware of what's going on. You're not supposed to slow down or stop. You're supposed to keep going on the track, continue with your session, but be aware that something, a heads up. And then there is if you see a red flag, that means usually that the session's over, and the next time you come around to the area to exit the track, you are to get off the track, because the emergency vehicle has to come out to pick up the person and or their bike, an ambulance and or a wrecker, to get the guy off the track. So if there is something that happens, hopefully if it's just a yellow flag that says caution and the session will continue, that means that the guy has just gone off the track, they're not hurt, they may even get back on the track, but just to be careful. And any track day that you do, the organizations will tell you what their policies and procedures are and what their flags mean and how they work, because they can differ a little bit from track to track and from organization to organization. So, it happens, and there are guys who are able to put their bikes back together and get on the next session. Like Nate mentioned, Roger Lyle checked out his bike, and they found it to be technically safe to go back on the track. And if your bike is damaged, you can fix it and go back on the track. I remember one day, one of our buddies, Alex Malashev, had an accident in the morning session and screwed up his clip-ons and his tank and then his body work and stuff. And with the help of all of us together, and that's just the cool thing about track days, is all of us pitched in and helped him to fix up his bike. We went around, we bought new parts, there was a vendor selling the clip-ons right at the track, and I think we borrowed or used somebody else's brake fluid reservoir, whatever. We taped up the fairings with duct tape so they wouldn't fall, the thing wouldn't fall apart in the track. And he got back out after lunch and rode again that day. So it's a good example of your buddies at the track pitching in to help you and do stuff and when you have a wreck, if your bike is technically safe to continue. Let's talk a little about the rhythm and the routines that you have between track day sessions. It can be a grind on a hot day if you're doing a lot of sessions. So Nate, what do you experience when you know, between sessions? What's your rhythm? What's your routine? What do you do like as soon as the session's ended and you roll off? What do you do till the next session?
Usually my routine is just as soon as I'm pulling into the pit area, I will, you know, put the bike up on the stands, put the warmers on, you know, take the helmet off. If it's blistering hot outside, I'll try and cool off the helmet somehow if I can. You know, stick it on a fan. You know, the gloves obviously come off. Basically everything except, you know, the suit and boots. You know, I'll have the suit halfway on and the boots will be on, but everything else is just off and just trying to dry off and stay cool. And most of this is done during the warmer parts of the year, so you know, we all just kind of rehydrate, rest. I usually don't do a whole lot of anything except for just sitting down, getting on my phone and, you know, smack talking a little bit and rehydrating. So, resting and rehydrating, I think, are the biggest things.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to what I would do. I don't use tire warmers with my bike. I run the Dunlop Q3s on the street and the track. I'm pretty happy with those tires. And you don't really need, I mean, I'm not running race slicks or track slicks like you may be or some of the other guys. So I don't need a tire warmer. I could still use them with that, but it's not like required to do that. So when I come in, you know, in the morning, particularly after the first session, the first thing I'll do is after I get the bike up on the stands is check my tire pressure and see where I'm at. Like that should be checked throughout the day. And the tire track pressure is very different from the street track tire tire pressure. Excuse me. And that's something you find out what's right for you and your bike based on the experience of other people or the suggestive things you find on the internet. And the guys who are selling tires at the track and changing tires will probably be also a good source of information about your correct tire pressure for running hot at the track. For instance, my Q3s on the track, I run 31 front hot and 26 rear hot. So coming off the track, those should be the hot pressures. Going out, pressure on the front may be cold, like 27, cold on the rear, like 22, and then after the session, they heat up. So tire pressure is the first thing I check, and then the rest of it's pretty much the same as Nate. Relax, hydrate. You know, they say if you're not peeing between every session, then you're not hydrated, and you really need to stay hydrated for competition. I mean, I've read that you burn 400 calories per 15-minute session on the track. And then between sessions, usually you have about 40 minutes, right, Nate? Because of the other two groups that are usually out.
Yeah, and some organizations actually run 4 groups too. I think Roger Lyle will do 4 groups sometimes, so you might.
Yeah, so you have to know, you know, how long do I have? Usually I look at my watch right away and say, okay, I have 40 minutes before I go out again, and I'll immediately hydrate and just keep hydrating. And then when they do like a first or a second call for your group to come out, at first call, I'll go to the bathroom, and so I don't feel like I need to go to the bathroom. I don't want to have a session ruined by having to go to the can. So that's part of the rhythm. Hydration, check your pressure, check your gear, look your bike over, make sure you have no leaking fluids anywhere, and get ready. You know, if you're using tire warmers, right, you get those going, and you just wait for the next session to start. So Nate, what what have you learned over the years are essentials that you want to bring with you to a track day besides your riding gear and your bike?
Let's see. Tools. If something's going to break down, it's probably going to happen at the track at the most inopportune moment. You definitely want to bring some tools. And, you don't have to bring, a full tool set, but at least just the basics. And there's a lot of guys at the track that have tools as well. Like we mentioned in the first podcast, everyone's willing to help out. If you don't have a tool, there's odds are someone else at the track will have some. But at least bring some basic tools with you. Zip ties, those will always come in handy. Any kind of spare parts that you might have, clip-ons. Common breakage items would be all of the high points on the bike. Like the clip-ons, the axle sliders, extra sliders, frame sliders if you run those. Anything like that, that'll come in handy. Brakes, your reservoir. I think those are the only things I can really think of that commonly break. Maybe a pressure gauge. If you don't have a pressure gauge in your kit, you'd want to bring that. Oil, in case you need to do a little top off there at the track, or a full oil change, you can do that as well. Some type of fuel container, that always comes in handy. Some tracks don't have fuel on site. Most of them do, but some of them don't. You can always check beforehand. If it is on site, it is usually just a little more as far as the cost is concerned. If gas is averaging like $3 a gallon here, it's probably like $1 a gallon more at the track. An air pump is another item. I would also say maybe some other non-bike related things such as like a canopy to keep the sun off of you. Some chairs, cooler, first aid kit. And GoPro camera, perhaps, if you want to watch and see what you're doing or what someone else is doing, or just get some feedback on your body position if you want to put it behind you and have it face forward, that sort of thing. Yeah, that's all I can really think of. There might be, you can develop your own track day checklist. I have one that I use, and I've modified it. As things pop up, I'll just add something or take something away. And at this point, after having done a few days, it's just become like second nature to just grab everything on the list without even consulting the list. But I do check the list right before I leave to, make sure that I didn't forget, one random thing on there. But checklist will come in handy, and there's a few that are floating around the different track day forums that someone can use just to get an idea of what they would want to bring. But yeah, those are probably the basics there.
Yeah, those are all great things to bring. Definitely the canopy and the chairs. I want to be comfortable between sessions. I want to be able to just completely relax. And all those things you mentioned, and of course, did you say duct tape? I mean, that's a basic. I basically bring my whole garage that I can reasonably fit, because if I don't need it, maybe somebody else will. Better safe than sorry with all that stuff. Even spare tires, whatever. If you have to change a tire, I've had to change tires during the track day session because my tires were losing grip, and I needed to have all those tools. So everything you can think of bringing, just bring it. If you have room, bring it, just to be safe. In terms of like personal stuff, like compression garments, I wear like the Under Armour type or running clothes that are breathable, so it's easy to get in and out of the tracksuit between sessions. When you get sweaty, if you're just wearing a cotton t-shirt underneath that tracksuit, man, it's like trying to pull yourself out of a sausage after that, and it can look a little awkward, and you might even need help, like my fat ass sometimes needs. But so yeah, I wear those kind of garments, and good advice. So what do you do for hearing protection when you're riding on the street, Nate?
Right now, I don't put anything in for the street. My street bike, I guess it is a little on the loud side. I need to start wearing some hearing protection. On the track, I definitely wear hearing protection. I just use some run-of-the-mill, like reusable rubber type earplugs. Definitely would recommend wearing earplugs. It helps in a couple of ways. I feel like it keeps me more focused when I don't have the distracting loud noise in my ear. Also, some people's bikes are a little louder than yours even, and instead of a bike blazing past you, screaming by, it'll be a lot more muted. It just, to me, my personal opinion is I think that they do help, and I recommend them. And also, for safety, for your own personal safety, the hearing protection, it's going to save your hearing, and it's one of those things where once that starts to degrade, it never comes back. So you definitely want to protect yourself with the hearing protection.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do wear ear protection on the street as well as the track, though. On the street, I have noticed from years of riding that I have a little tinnitus in my ears, or a little bit of ringing in my ears if I ride for long on the street without hearing protection. Typically, my street rides are much longer duration than a 15 or 20-minute track session. But so I use like just the foam throwaway earplugs that you get at CVS or whatever on the street. At the track, I use corded earplugs, well, rubber ones that I can put in and take out really quick without having to fiddle with compressing the little foams and stuff. But I always wear hearing protection. A lot of dudes will listen to music at the track. They'll put in earbuds or whatever. That's not my style, but some dudes do that. I'm just worried about hearing loss at this point, so I'm very protective where that is because I'm old and I want to keep my hearing going. Nate, let's talk a little about riding techniques and body position that you have learned and that you use at the track.
Well, it's one of those things where it's almost like personal preference. I feel like most people kind of have like a general idea of how someone should be, and they'll all agree on one thing. For example, most people are going to say you want half of your butt hanging off of the bike when you're in a turn to remove some of your body weight from being dead center. I think 99% of everyone out there that rides at the track will agree with that. Other things people are a little more, I guess, particular about in regards to their own personal style. But generally what I try to do is I try to get my upper body off of the bike as much as I can. And I do that by using a couple techniques that some of the guys that I've met at the track have told me about, such as pretending you have a mirror there mounted on your bike and you're trying to bite that mirror off. So you're getting your face as close to your where your mirror would be as possible, and that would help to get your upper body off, because most of your body weight is in your upper body. So you'll see a lot of guys who will be in a position that is called being crossed up, and what that is your butt is hanging off of the bike, and you've got your lower half somewhat off of the bike, but then your upper half is kind of trying to hang on, so it's sort of contorted, and your upper body is sort of still straight up and down the bike, and then the lower half is hanging off. And I'm guilty of that every now and then too as well. It's a hard habit to break, but once you get the hang of it, it'll definitely help you as far as the feel of the bike and being able to have more confidence in yourself as well. The bike feels more planted. You have a bigger contact patch. The purpose behind it is so that you can have the bike more in an upright position as opposed to being leaned over. The theory being that as you're leaned over, you have less contact patch on your tire, and if you have the bike more upright, then you have a bigger contact patch. So technically, you're supposed to have more traction using these types of techniques. But it's definitely one of those things you just have to practice, and you'll get better with practice. I try not to put too much emphasis on it if I'm trying to explain it to somebody, because it will come. But there are other things I would focus on before that. But it's definitely something that's important, just not one of the most important things, I think, when someone's first starting out. You can go fast. I mean, there's a couple of professionals that are out there that have horrible body position by some people's standards, yet they're pros. So, like I said, I think a lot of it's personal preference, but it does help.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I know for me, my riding technique and my body position ability has changed a lot since my first novice group track day session. And a lot of that, as you said, is about seat time. There's no substitute for that at the track. You can read Keith Code's book, Twist of the Wrist, You can talk to other people, you can talk to control riders, you can sit in the classrooms, and it's all important information, but there is no substitute for just the changes that you go through from experience at speed on the track. There's no substitute for that, really, I've found. And my techniques aren't the same as your techniques, and in all ways, and I have a lot of improvement I can still do on my techniques, definitely. And I'm just getting to the point where I'm putting my knee down after all this time. And it is, if you want to see great body techniques, or for really fast guys, watch MotoGP or World Superbike, and see guys like Marc Marquez and Jorge Lorenzo or Valentino Rossi, showing you really, these videos are all over YouTube or on the web, anywhere, and you can see that how these guys do their body position and how fluid they are. And I kind of hold that as the gold standard of what I would want to do for my body position ultimately, is be fluid, be smooth when I'm riding, when I'm changing body positions. When you see a curve coming up, you get in your body position before you get to the curve to take the curve, and try and position your bike in a way that you'll hit the apex the way you want to, let your suspension settle down before you hit the curve so that your contact patches are optimized. And these are all things that you learn through experience and can't really be taught. And so my body position has gotten continually better. I look at those pictures from a while ago, the first track day sessions, and I look at my most recent track day sessions, and it's almost embarrassing. You think you were so great in those first pictures, like, oh, that's so cool. And then after some experience, you look back, and all you can see is, wow, that was really crappy body position that I had in that picture, or whatever. Definitely my own worst critic where that's concerned. But I've gotten faster, I've gotten smoother, but I have a lot of work to do. I still want to get smoother, and with going fast, I want to go fast as safely as I can, and a lot of that has to do with being smooth. So let's talk a little bit about what kind of bike mods would you do for a street bike going to the track, Nate? Anything besides just cosmetic?
Honestly, for the track, I think a lot of these bikes, when we're referring to sport bikes, they are pretty much track ready right out of the box. They have modifications to make them street legal, like headlights and lights and whatnot in general. But yeah, I think they're great right out the box. I would focus more on being able to get a lot of seat time and experience and tires and oil. That's really it. I mean, I don't think you really need to do a whole lot to a bike to make it quote unquote track ready. You could take anything out there. It's all, for me at least, it's all about just having fun and learning at the same time. But yeah, I mean, I honestly would not focus too much on modifying anything. But if you are wanting to modify something, my personal favorites are the quick shifter is one of them. Some bikes have them stock, some of them don't. You can add it with like Bazzaz or Power Commander. The other mod that I would do that I personally prefer is the like rear sets, having those made it's an aftermarket set so that they're set up so that it's comfortable for you as a rider. Your feet are in the right position you want them to be in. You're sitting in a comfortable position, not cramped or anything like that. Yeah, I think that's probably the single, I guess like an ergonomic mod, is probably going to be the single best thing for me is the rear sets.
That's a good point. I haven't done any type of mods on my BMW S1000 for the track, mainly because it's pretty much like you said, track ready. The only thing I do with mine, because I use it on the street and the track, I don't just make it a track only bike, although plenty of guys do that, and they would put on pretty much any bike you have. You can buy track fairings that are cheaper fairings that are just for the track. So if you rash them up with a wreck or whatever, it's no big deal. You can replace it rather than the expensive fairings that came with your stock bike, like those expensive HP4 fairings, right, Nate?
Yeah, it's the street plastic gets real expensive to replace, so I would definitely try and slap on some track plastic if you're going to be out there for a long time. just for the simple cost reason. They're inexpensive, and you don't hurt too bad when you do something to them.
That's true. And as far as the rest of the bike, like my S1000 has 194 stock rear wheel horsepower, and that's plenty for this guy for anytime soon. So I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where I want to put on like an Akrapovic full system and use a power commander and get rid of the stock exhaust, the can underneath the bike for the catalytic converter, whatever's in there. That whole system weighs about, just that can is like 25 pounds. So I could improve the power to weight ratio of the bike a lot by going to an aftermarket type exhaust and getting a full system and getting rid of that. That's probably the only thing I would really need to do to my bike, because it has stainless steel brake lines from the factory, because it has everything else. It's already pretty light. I just tape up I disconnect the headlights and just tape up all the other plastic on the bike that they require you to tape up in case of an accident, the headlights, the tail lights, and those type of things. Take off the plate, just basic mod, not even a mod, just getting it ready to ride on the track. Other than that, the only thing I could really do to get faster on that bike is some rider mods. Like this guy losing like 20 pounds would be a really good mod for the rider this season to get going. And so conditioning is a big part of being comfortable at the track, and part of that is just what you do to stay in condition. I like to run. I hurt myself at the last track day, hurt my back lifting some stuff at the end of the track day, and so I'm just getting back into running right now, and my goal is to be in good cardiovascular conditioning for the next track day starting here in the spring. And so that's what I'm rider mods. I'd like to lose like 10 pounds. It would be so much better for a track day session to have that stamina, especially on a hot day, and not be huffing and puffing at the end of the session or during the session, or even having to take a break during a session to pit out just to get a breather. I have done that on really hot days, and then continued with the rest of the session. So how about you, Nate? What do you think about that topic of rider conditioning?
I think that's a great idea. Definitely getting some cardio would help. Also, your lower body, you're going to be doing a lot of pushing off the bike. So, leg lifts, squats, things like that. I mean, those will all help you as far as being conditioned to do 20-minute sessions, repeatedly. I have not kept up on that, and I plan to get back into shape, once spring hits and things warm up a little bit. But it makes a huge difference. You'll go from being out of breath to just waiting for the next session and being ready, and you won't get tired as quickly, and you'll be able to stay in for the full session. When I was in worse shape, I wasn't doing full 20-minute sessions. I was only doing 12 to 15-minute sessions. And then last season, I pretty much stayed in, full 20-minute sessions for just about every event. So, yeah, it makes a huge impact on your performance and safety as well. You won't get fatigued as quickly, and it might creep up on you when you're in better shape. But if you're not in good shape at all, it just might overtake you, and you might not know what happened and think that you have more stamina than you really do, and find yourself in a bad situation. So definitely a good idea to get in shape and stay that way.
That's a great point Nate makes about the lower body and the conditioning, because sort of getting back to the body position discussion is this: when you're going around a curve, when you're going to go into a curve, if you're leaning to the left, then you're going to put your body weight on the foot peg on the ball of your left foot, and pretty much most of your body weight is going to be on that. You're just going to be hanging on to the handlebars for throttle and for grip and for leverage to pull the bike around the corner, and your thighs and your legs with all that weight on the ball of your foot gets tired really quick. So you'll definitely see where you're at with your conditioning by doing a track day session on a hot day. And typically, if I'm doing 2 track days in a row, a Saturday, Sunday, or a Sunday, Monday, the next day, the second day, I'll have a better day because I've gotten into a little bit better condition just overnight from the previous track day. And I'm all dialed in. My bike's all dialed in. I'm dialed into the track. Doing 2 track days in a row will definitely show you where you're at and help your conditioning. Let's switch topics. We've only got a couple more things to talk about here before we wrap up. One of them would be, we mentioned it last podcast, was the Tail of the Dragon. This is a fabled road down the North Carolina-Tennessee border. It's US 129, and it's all over the web. There's all sorts of videos on YouTube or wherever that you can look at. Just type in Tail of the Dragon. I'll put a link to one of the Tail of the Dragon basic websites in the show notes. Comments to help you look at the end of the podcast. But it's US 129. There's 318 curves in 11 miles. And so this road basically snakes along the ridge line of a mountain chain that connects North Carolina and Tennessee. And it's a beautiful place. I've done that particular road. I've gone down there twice in the last 6 years. And I highly recommend that you go experience that for yourself. But it's not just the Tail of the Dragon Road itself, because that's only 11 miles, and it can be really crowded on weekends. So I would recommend going during the week. Nate, do you have any comments on that before we have to wrap things up?
No, I haven't been there just yet. I'm looking forward to it. We were talking about doing a trip down there this year, so now I'm just really excited. I've heard nothing but good things about it. Like you said, the roads around it I hear are amazing. It's just it sounds like it's going to be a good time. But no, I don't really have any experience whatsoever down there, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I think next week we'll have more time to discuss that topic, as well as MotoGP for the upcoming year, and maybe talk about last year's great showing again by Marc Marquez. We could talk about the Isle of Man TT this year and our desires for a TrackDayHeroes abroad trip to go see that someday, and some other good topics, as well as the sales for last year for KTM, BMW, Ducati, and the Japanese manufacturers. There's some interesting stories with that we could talk about, and the trends that we're seeing there. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can email us at TrackDayHeroesTDH@gmail.com. That's TrackDayHeroesTDH@gmail.com. That's heroes, HEROES. And we also have a Facebook page now, Trackday Heroes TDH on Facebook. You can see pictures of our various track day events up there that we've been to, and there's more pictures coming to that. Links to our Google Plus page, as well as links to the podcast. Nate, do you have any parting comments for the good folks out there?
No, just looking forward to April when the season first starts up, and trying to get ready for that. So getting excited, just watching videos and kind of looking back at last season and kind of getting all pumped up about it when I see them. So hopefully this will do the same for everyone else.
Yeah, I'm excited about the upcoming season too. We have a lot to talk about. We have a lot of days planned that we're going to attend, and for future podcasts, we're going to be, when the track day season starts, we're going to be doing a podcast, perhaps every week, maybe every 2 weeks, but after a track day session that we've had as track at a group somewhere, we'll be talking about the track day session and what we learned and where you could go, and just so you get a flavor of what that experience is for the new rider, or even an experienced rider. We'd love to hear from the experienced A group riders out there that have tips or comments for the show. And I think that is about it. Please check with us again at TrackDayHeroesTDH@gmail.com. And We will see you out there again. Remember, keep the rubber side down, right, Nate?
Absolutely.
All right, folks, thanks for being with us, and we will catch you again soon.
See ya.